I overheard my girlfriend joking about my insecurities thanks to my new hearing aids, and she still thinks I'm completely unaware. The audiologist pressed the button, and the world crashed into my ears like a tidal wave I didn't know I'd been missing. Every rustle of paper, every hum of the fluorescent lights, every breath Dr. Patricia Nguyen took as she calibrated the settings, it all flooded in with crystalline clarity. I'd been losing my hearing gradually for 3 years, so slowly I didn't realize how much silence had replaced the texture of everyday life. Now, at 28, I was getting it back. "How does that feel, Aaron?" Dr. Nguyen asked, her voice no longer the muffled approximation I'd grown accustomed to. I touched the nearly invisible devices tucked behind my ears, marveling at how something so small could return so much. "It's overwhelming," I admitted. "Like I've been underwater and just surfaced." She smiled, adjusting something on her tablet. "That's normal. Your brain needs time to recalibrate. For the first week, everything will seem loud. You'll hear conversations you didn't know were happening. Background noise will feel intrusive. But gradually, your brain will learn to filter again." She had no idea how prophetic those words would become. I'd met Vanessa Winters 14 months earlier at a craft brewery in downtown Portland, back when I could still hear well enough to fake my way through crowded bars. She was radiant, auburn hair that caught the light, green eyes that seemed to hold secrets, and a laugh that made everyone around her want to join in. She worked in marketing for a tech startup, the kind of place with beanbag chairs and kombucha on tap. I was a systems analyst for a financial firm, the boring counterweight to her creativity. Somehow, we clicked. She never made me feel less than whole when I asked her to repeat things. She learned to face me when she spoke, to enunciate without making it obvious. When I finally told her about the progressive hearing loss, a genetic condition my father had dealt with too, she held my hand and said it didn't change anything. "You're still you," she'd whispered. "This doesn't define you." I believed her completely. The hearing aids were expensive, even with insurance, but necessary. My job required phone calls and video conferences. I was missing critical information in meetings, nodding along to conversations I couldn't fully follow. The audiologist had been clear: get the aids now, or risk my career and relationships deteriorating further. Vanessa had been supportive throughout the entire process, accompanying me to appointments, researching options online, even helping me pick the most discreet model. When I came home that Thursday evening with the devices in place, she hugged me and asked me to tell her about every sound I'd rediscovered. The first few days were exactly as Dr. Nguyen predicted, overwhelming but exhilarating. I heard birds I'd forgotten existed. The rustle of leaves became a symphony. Water running from the faucet sounded different than I remembered, more layered and complex. At work, I caught nuances in my colleagues' voices that revealed annoyance or enthusiasm I'd been missing. But the real revelation came on Sunday afternoon, 4 days after my fitting appointment. Vanessa had friends over for what she called a low-key brunch. Mimosas, overpriced pastries from the bakery on Hawthorne, and the kind of casual conversation I usually tuned out because I couldn't hear it clearly anyway. I was in the bedroom, supposedly napping off a headache from sensory overload, but actually just giving myself a break from the exhausting work of processing every new sound. Our apartment had an open floor plan, and what I didn't realize was that the kitchen where they'd gathered was perfectly positioned for sound to carry straight down the hallway to our cracked bedroom door. I heard everything. "So how's the bionic boyfriend?" That was Jenna Kowalski, Vanessa's college roommate, voice dripping with the particular kind of cruelty disguised as curiosity. I'd met her maybe 5 times. She worked in fashion, looked through people like they were obstacles, and had a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "Oh my God, Jenna," Vanessa's voice. But she was laughing. Not uncomfortable laughter, not shut this down laughter. Genuine amusement. "I mean, are they helping? Can he actually hear now? Or is he still doing that thing where he nods like a dashboard bobblehead?" That was another voice, Claire Donovan, Vanessa's co-worker. I remembered her from the company holiday party. She'd spent the entire evening talking about her marathon training. "They're helping," Vanessa said, and I waited for the defense, for her to tell them to knock it off. But honestly, it's kind of hilarious watching him discover normal sounds like he's a toddler. Yesterday he stood in front of the dishwasher for like 5 minutes just listening to it run. More laughter. My stomach had started to feel strange, like I'd swallowed something jagged. "I still can't believe you're dealing with this at your age," Jenna said. "Like, you're 26. You should be dating someone who can hear you whisper dirty things, not someone who needs subtitles for real life." The words landed like physical blows. I lay perfectly still on the bed, my new hearing aids picking up every syllable with devastating clarity. This was what Dr. Nguyen had meant about hearing conversations I didn't know were happening. "It's not that bad," Vanessa said, but her tone was defensive in a way that made it worse, like she was defending her choice to stay with damaged goods. "I mean, yeah, sometimes it's frustrating. Like when we're watching TV and he can't quite hear the dialogue even with the volume up, or when we're at dinner with people and he smiles and nods but I can tell he's not following the conversation. But he's sweet, you know? And the sex is good." I felt something inside me crack. Not break, that would come later, but definitely crack. "Girl, the sex is good is not a reason to settle for someone who's basically geriatric at 28, Claire said. "What happens in 10 years when he needs a cane, or can't drive. Genetic conditions progress, you know. It's just hearing loss, not total system failure, Vanessa replied, laughing. But she didn't sound offended on my behalf. She sounded like she was explaining a disappointing purchase she'd decided to keep anyway. Has he done the thing yet where he gets all sensitive about it? Jenna asked. Like, has he had the emotional breakdown about feeling less manly or whatever? My hands clenched the bedsheet. We'd had that conversation 6 months ago, late at night after I'd missed an important meeting because I hadn't heard the alarm on my phone. I told Vanessa I felt broken, inadequate, worried she'd eventually see me as a burden. She'd held me and promised me I was enough, that she loved me exactly as I was. Apparently, that intimate moment had become entertainment. Oh God, yes, Vanessa said. Back in October, he got all teary and was like, "Do you think I'm less of a man because of this?" And I had to sit there and reassure him for like an hour. It was exhausting. What did you say? Claire asked. The usual. Of course not, honey. You're still you. This doesn't change how I feel. She was mimicking my voice, making it deeper and slower, like I was simple. All while thinking, please let this hearing aid thing actually work so we don't have to have this conversation again. The laughter that followed was the sound of my relationship dying. I didn't move. I couldn't. Every muscle in my body had locked into place. The hearing aids fed me every word, every inflection, every casual cruelty, with perfect, merciless fidelity. Honestly, though, Jenna said, major props for sticking it out. I would have ghosted after the third time asking him to repeat myself. It's not always bad, Vanessa said, and I hated how much I wanted that to mean something. Like, when it's just us and things are quiet, he's great, attentive, thoughtful, remembers little things. It's when we're out in the world that it gets complicated. I've basically become his interpreter. That sounds like a mom thing, not a girlfriend thing, Claire observed. Have you thought about an exit strategy? The question hung in the air. I could hear the clink of glasses, the rustle of someone shifting on our couch, the ambient music from Vanessa's carefully curated brunch playlist. I waited for her to shut it down, to tell her friends they were out of line. The pause lasted maybe 3 seconds. It felt like 3 hours. I mean, not seriously, Vanessa finally said. But yeah, I've thought about what it would be like to date someone without complications. Someone I don't have to worry about in social situations. Is that terrible? That's human, Jenna assured her. You're allowed to want a normal relationship. The hearing aids will help, Vanessa said. If they really work, if he can function like a regular person, then maybe… She trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe I'd be worth keeping? I stayed in that bedroom for another 20 minutes, listening to them move on to other topics. Someone's terrible date, a Netflix show, complaints about work. The casual cruelty had passed. They'd dissected my inadequacies and moved on to more interesting subjects. When they finally left and Vanessa came to check on me, I pretended I'd been asleep. How are you feeling, babe? She asked, sitting on the edge of the bed and running her fingers through my hair. The same fingers that had held a mimosa while she entertained her friends with stories of my emotional vulnerability. Better, I lied. The headache's gone. Good, she said, smiling. I missed you out there. Jenna was asking about you. I wondered what version of asking about me she meant. The one where Jenna called me bionic, or the one where she questioned Vanessa's sanity for dating damaged goods? That's nice, I said, sitting up and putting on the mask I'd apparently been wearing for months without knowing it. How was brunch? Fun, she said easily. Just girl talk, nothing exciting. I looked at her, this woman I'd trusted with my deepest insecurities, and saw a stranger. Not because she'd changed, but because I'd finally heard who she really was when she thought I couldn't. The next few days were torture in slow motion. I couldn't unhear what I'd heard. Every time Vanessa touched me, I remembered her friends asking if she'd thought about an exit strategy. Every time she smiled at me, I wondered if she was thinking about how much easier her life would be with someone whole. At work, I functioned on autopilot, my new hearing aids picking up every whispered conversation around me, making me paranoid that everyone knew, that my inadequacy was written across my forehead for the world to see. I started testing her in small ways. I'd ask her to repeat something I'd heard perfectly, just to see if annoyance flickered across her face. It did. I'd bring up social events and watch her face when she thought about having to interpret for me. The mask would slip just for a moment before she caught herself and smiled. Whatever you want to do, babe, she'd say. But I could hear the lie now. The hearing aids had given me more than just sound. They'd given me clarity. On Thursday, exactly 1 week after my fitting appointment, I made a decision. I needed proof. Not for confrontation. I wasn't ready for that yet, but for myself. I needed to know if what I'd overheard was an isolated incident, a moment of venting that didn't reflect her true feelings, or if it was the tip of a much larger iceberg. I did something I'm not proud of. I started recording our conversations, not secretly in the manipulative sense, but openly in the practical sense. The audiologist said these hearing aids have a recording feature, I told Vanessa that evening. Apparently it's helpful for reviewing conversations I might have missed parts of, like meeting notes or important discussions. I'm going to turn it on during the day so I can review things later. It wasn't entirely a lie. The devices did have a recording feature, primarily designed for exactly that purpose, helping users review conversations they might have struggled to follow. But Dr. Nguyen had mentioned it as an optional feature, not a necessity. That's smart, Vanessa said, not looking up from her phone. Whatever helps you adjust. She had no idea she'd just consented to documenting her own betrayal. The following Sunday, she had the same friends over again. This time I didn't hide in the bedroom. I stayed visible for the first hour, making pleasantries, offering drinks, playing the role of the boyfriend who was grateful his girlfriend's friends tolerated his existence. Then I excused myself to run errands, a trip to the hardware store, some groceries, maybe stop by the gym. Normal Sunday activities for a normal guy in a normal relationship. Take your time, Vanessa said, kissing my cheek. We'll be here for a while. I left the apartment, drove around the block, parked on a side street, and pulled up the recording app on my phone that synced with my hearing aids. The devices I'd left sitting on the bathroom counter, exactly where they'd be if I'd removed them before heading out, were still active. The recording feature worked even when I wasn't wearing them, a fact I'd confirmed with a test run earlier that week. I sat in my Toyota in the autumn rain, listening to the women in my apartment discuss my life. It took them maybe 10 minutes to get comfortable. Then the show began. Is he gone? That was Jenna. Yeah, he'll be out for at least an hour, Vanessa confirmed. He's doing that thing where he overcompensates for needing the hearing aids by being super helpful in running errands. God, that's actually kind of sad, Claire said. But she didn't sound sad. She sounded amused. Has he figured out you can hear him perfectly fine now? Like, does he know you don't have to repeat yourself anymore? Jenna asked. I don't think so, Vanessa said. He's still doing the apologetic thing when he asks me to repeat something, even though half the time I think he heard me fine and just wants reassurance. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I had asked her to repeat something just that morning. She'd mumbled something about coffee while facing away from me. It wasn't about reassurance. It was about literally not hearing her clearly. But apparently, even that was evidence of my neediness. So the hearing aids are working? Claire asked. Yeah, really well, actually, Vanessa said. Which is great because it means I don't have to be his personal subtitle service anymore. But it's also kind of annoying because now he notices everything. Like I can't even have a private conversation on the phone anymore without him hearing half of it and asking questions. You could just tell him it's none of his business, Jenna suggested. I do, but then he gets all hurt. Like he's entitled to know everything just because we're dating. The irony was suffocating. She was having this conversation about privacy while I was literally listening to her trash me to her friends in our shared apartment. Have you thought more about the exit strategy thing? Claire asked. My breath caught. I mean, yeah, Vanessa admitted. The lease is up in 3 months. I've been thinking maybe that's a natural breaking point. 3 months. We'd been together for 14 months, and she'd already calculated the exact date our relationship would end. Are you going to tell him before then? Or just let the lease run out and be like, surprise, I'm not renewing? Jenna's voice was full of mock sympathy. I don't know, Vanessa said. Part of me thinks I should wait until after the holidays. Like, breaking up right before Thanksgiving seems cruel. And his mom already invited me to their family thing. His mom who asks you if you're taking care of him, like he's a special needs child? Claire asked. That mom? They all laughed. I remembered that conversation. My mother had pulled Vanessa aside at a family barbecue in August, before the hearing aids, when my hearing loss was becoming more obvious. She'd asked Vanessa to be patient with me, to understand that I was struggling with something that affected my confidence. My mother had meant well. Apparently, it had become a punchline. She means well, Vanessa said. But yeah, it's exhausting. The whole family treats him like he's fragile. And the worst part is, he kind of is. Like, you can't give him any real criticism or challenge him on anything because he spirals into this self-doubt thing. That wasn't true. Or was it? I thought back over our arguments, the few we'd had. Had I been overly sensitive? Or had she been calculatedly cruel, knowing I'd back down? What finally made you decide to end it? Jenna asked. Is it the hearing thing, or is there more? It's everything, Vanessa said. The hearing thing is part of it. Like, I'm 26, and I'm already dealing with long-term health management for someone else's condition. But it's also just, he's boring. He's safe and stable and reliable, and those are great qualities for, like, a financial advisor or a used car. But in a boyfriend, I want excitement. I want spontaneity. I want someone who doesn't need a manual to function in social situations. The words cut deeper than anything else she'd said. Boring. Safe. A used car. You're allowed to want those things, Claire assured her. You've done your time being the supportive girlfriend. Now go find someone who doesn't need support. The hearing aids were supposed to fix things, Vanessa said. Like, I thought if he could just hear properly, everything else would fall into place. But now I realize the hearing loss was never the real problem. It's him. He's just limited. I sat in my car listening to the woman I loved reduce me to a list of defects and expiration dates. The rain drummed against the windshield, and I thought about Dr. Nguyen's warning about hearing conversations I didn't know were happening. She'd been trying to prepare me for overhearing strangers on the bus or catching whispered gossip at work. She had no idea she was preparing me for this. I let the recording run for another 30 minutes. They moved on to other topics eventually, but circled back to me twice more. Once, when Jenna asked if Vanessa had started looking at options yet. Apparently she had, and had been messaging with someone from her gym for the past 3 weeks. Once, when Claire asked if she felt guilty. Apparently she did. A little, but not enough to change her plans. When I finally turned off the recording, I had 90 minutes of audio documentation. 90 minutes of proof that the woman sharing my bed, my home, my life, had already checked out. She was just waiting for the lease to end so she could make a clean break. I drove to the actual hardware store, bought things I didn't need, and returned to the apartment an hour and a half after I'd left. Vanessa greeted me with a smile and a kiss, asked if I'd found everything I needed, told me her friends had just left. "How was your afternoon?" I asked, setting down the bags. "Great," she said easily. "Just relaxing, you know? Girl time." "Did you talk about anything interesting?" I watched her face carefully. She didn't even hesitate. "Not really. Just the usual stuff. Work drama, relationship things, boring gossip." "Relationship things?" I pressed. "Yeah, Jenna's having issues with her boyfriend again. Same old cycle." Another lie. Jenna was single. They'd spent 10 minutes discussing her latest dating app disasters. Vanessa was so comfortable lying to me that she didn't even bother to make it convincing. "I'm glad you had fun," I said, and retreated to the bedroom before my face could betray what I was feeling. That night, lying next to her, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because confrontation would give her the opportunity to spin the narrative, to make herself the victim, to claim I'd violated her privacy by recording her. And she wouldn't be entirely wrong about that last part. I had recorded her without her explicit knowledge of what I was doing. No, I needed something better than confrontation. I needed strategy. I needed her to expose herself so completely, so publicly, that she couldn't spin her way out of it. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I played the perfect boyfriend, attentive, grateful for the hearing aids, constantly thanking Vanessa for her support through my journey. I asked her opinion on everything. I praised her patience. I told her friends how lucky I was to have someone so understanding. And I watched her eat it up, each compliment I gave her reinforcing her belief that I was exactly as clueless as she thought I was. Meanwhile, I was building a case. I started documenting everything. The recordings continued. I'd leave the hearing aids in strategic locations, always with plausible deniability. Forgot them on the coffee table, left them charging in the kitchen while I showered. Each time I'd retrieve them later and review what had been captured. I learned that Vanessa complained about me to her mother. I learned that she'd told her boss she was dealing with a difficult personal situation and might need some flexibility in the coming months. I learned that the guy from the gym, Nathan something, a personal trainer with an Instagram account full of shirtless mirror selfies, was more than just messaging. They'd met for coffee. Twice. I also started documenting our relationship for an audience she didn't know existed. I created a private Instagram account under a pseudonym and began posting screenshots of our text messages, the sweet ones where she called me pet names and told me she loved me, alongside timestamps from the recordings where she discussed exit strategies with her friends. I didn't make them public. I just collected them, dated them, organized them into a timeline. I reached out to Jeremy Blackstone, my older brother who practiced family law 3 states away. I didn't tell him everything, just asked hypothetical questions about relationship dissolution and shared leases. "Why are you asking me this?" he'd said over the phone. "Just curious," I lied. "Someone at work is going through a breakup." "Aaron, you're a terrible liar. What's going on?" I told him. Not everything, not about the recordings, not about the depth of my surveillance, but enough. That Vanessa was planning to leave, that she'd been deceiving me, that I needed to protect myself. "Do you have any proof?" he asked. "Recordings," I said, "of her discussing this with friends." There was a long pause. "That's legally complicated. Depending on where you are and how you obtained them." I told her I was using the recording feature on my hearing aids to review conversations. I interrupted. She knew they could record. She just didn't know I was actually doing it. "That's still ethically gray, Aaron. And emotionally. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes the healthiest thing is just to walk away." But I couldn't walk away. Not because I still loved her. That had died somewhere between exit strategy and basically a used car. I couldn't walk away because she'd turned my vulnerability into entertainment. She'd taken the most painful, personal moments of my life and made them into brunch conversation. She'd laughed about my insecurity with the same friends who smiled to my face and ate food I'd paid for. No, I wasn't walking away. I was building something better. Thanksgiving arrived. Vanessa came to my parents' house in Beaverton, played the devoted girlfriend, held my hand at the dinner table. My mother gushed about how wonderful she was. My father, who dealt with the same genetic hearing loss and understood the psychological weight of it, pulled me aside and told me to hold on to this one. "A woman who stays through the hard parts is rare," he said. "Make sure you appreciate her." I smiled and nodded. The good son, the grateful boyfriend. Inside, I was counting down days. The lease expired on January 31st. It was currently late November. I had 2 months to execute my plan. On the Monday after Thanksgiving, I contacted a lawyer, not my brother this time, but someone local. Diane Fletcher, a specialist in contract law with a side practice in what she called relationship asset protection. She was 50-something, pragmatic, and completely unimpressed by my story. "Let me be clear," she said in her downtown office, surrounded by diplomas and case citations. "What you're describing isn't illegal, but it's not admirable either. You've been secretly recording your girlfriend?" "Not secretly," I interrupted. She knew the hearing aids could record. I told her I was using that feature. "She knew they could record. Did she know you were recording her specifically at specific times for the purpose of documenting her betrayal?" The question hung in the air. "No," I admitted. "Then it's secret recording, regardless of the technical disclosure. Now, Oregon is a one-party consent state, which means you're legally allowed to record conversations you're a part of. The gray area is recordings made when you're not present. Those could be challenged." "So, what can I do?" She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "What do you want to do? If this is about the lease, you can just leave. Give proper notice, split the remaining costs, move on with your life. You don't need a legal strategy for that." "I want her to face consequences," I said. "Real ones." Diane Fletcher raised an eyebrow. "Consequences for what exactly? For planning to break up with you? For talking badly about you to her friends? Those aren't crimes, Mr. Hartley. They're not even civil offenses. She's hurt your feelings, not violated any law. She's been lying to me for months, building a new relationship while pretending ours is fine, using me for financial stability while planning her exit." "Still not illegal," Diane said. "Morally questionable? Absolutely. But the courts don't arbitrate relationship ethics. What about fraud? Emotional damages? She's been taking advantage of my disability?" "Careful," Diane interrupted. "That angle could backfire badly. Right now, you're the one surveilling her without her knowledge. Frame this wrong, and you become the villain in the story, not her." She was right. I could feel the rage cooling into something more calculated. "What would you do?" I asked. Diane considered this for a moment. "If I were in your position, I'd document everything, quietly secure my own housing, separate my finances, and then simply leave. No confrontation, no drama, just a clean break. The best revenge is living well without someone who doesn't value you." "That doesn't feel like enough," I admitted. "I know," she said, not unkindly. "But sometimes the adult thing and the satisfying thing are different. You have to decide which one you want to be." I left her office with no legal strategy, but something better: clarity. Diane was right that I couldn't punish Vanessa through the courts, but she was wrong that I had no options. I spent the next 3 weeks becoming the perfect version of what Vanessa wanted me to be. I was social, outgoing, funny at her company holiday party. I made sure her coworkers saw me as charming and capable, not the burden she'd described to her friends. I invested in our relationship visibly. Flowers delivered to her office, surprise date nights, thoughtful gifts. Not because I wanted to win her back, but because I wanted documentation of my effort. I wanted her narrative of, "he's boring and limited," to clash violently with reality. Meanwhile, I prepared for the actual endgame. I found a new apartment, signed a lease starting February 1st. I opened a separate bank account and quietly moved my money. I cataloged every shared expense and my contributions versus hers. I documented that I'd paid 70% of our rent, 80% of utilities, 90% of groceries. I'd been subsidizing her life while she auditioned my replacement. The week before Christmas, Vanessa's company held their annual holiday party at a rented loft in the Pearl District. She'd asked me to come, and I'd agreed enthusiastically. At the party, I was everything she'd claimed I wasn't: engaging, funny, socially adept. Her coworkers loved me. Her boss, a woman named Patricia Reeves who ran the marketing department, told Vanessa within my hearing that she was lucky to have such a great partner. I watched Vanessa's face cycle through confusion and something that looked like annoyance. This wasn't the script. I wasn't supposed to be good at this. Near the end of the evening, I volunteered to get drinks for Vanessa and some of her coworkers. The bar was crowded, and while I waited, I heard Vanessa talking to Patricia Reeves and another colleague, both of them slightly drunk on champagne and holiday cheer. "Your boyfriend is delightful," Patricia said. "You've been holding out on us." "Thanks," Vanessa said. She didn't sound pleased. "I didn't realize he was so outgoing," the other colleague added. "You always make it sound like he's more reserved." "He's having a good night," Vanessa said tightly. "The hearing aids have made a big difference." "Oh, that's right," Patricia said. "You mentioned he'd been dealing with hearing loss. He seems to be managing it really well." "Yeah, the aids are working great," Vanessa said. Then, lowering her voice just slightly, not enough that her colleagues would notice, but enough that I, with my bionic boyfriend hearing, caught every word. "Almost too well. Now he hears everything." Patricia laughed, not understanding the edge in Vanessa's tone. "Well, that's the point, isn't it?" "Sure," Vanessa said. "That's exactly the point." I returned with the drinks, handed them out with a smile, and caught Vanessa's eye. For just a moment, I saw something flicker there. Uncertainty, maybe suspicion. She was beginning to wonder if the hearing aids had given me more than just sound, but she couldn't be sure. And that uncertainty would be her undoing. Christmas came and went. We exchanged gifts. I gave her a necklace she'd mentioned wanting, expensive enough to seem thoughtful. She gave me a book about thriving with hearing loss, which felt like a pointed message I was supposed to miss. We spent the holiday with my family again, and she played her part perfectly. No one suspected that in 5 weeks, she'd be gone. The recordings continued. Just before New Year's, Vanessa had her friends over one final time. By now, I had refined the system. I'd leave the hearing aids charging on the kitchen counter, clearly visible, while I went to the gym. The recording would capture everything, and later I'd transfer the files to a cloud storage account she didn't know existed. This session was the most damning yet. Maybe it was the champagne, maybe it was the proximity to her planned departure, but Vanessa let her guard down completely. 5 more weeks, she told Jenna and Claire. Then I'm free. Have you told Nathan yet that you're leaving? Claire asked. Nathan, the personal trainer. I'd suspected but hadn't had confirmation until now. Not officially, Vanessa said, but he knows I'm ending things with Aaron soon. He's been really patient. Patient about being the side piece? Jenna laughed. How long have you been hooking up? We haven't had sex yet, Vanessa said quickly. I'm not a cheater, but we've been talking. A lot. And yeah, we've kissed a few times, but nothing serious until I'm officially single. The rationalization was stunning. She'd created a category between faithful and cheating that apparently allowed for emotional affairs and physical intimacy as long as it stopped short of sex, and she genuinely seemed to believe this made her morally sound. What are you going to tell Aaron when you leave? Claire asked. The truth, mostly, Vanessa said. That I need space, that we're not compatible long-term, that I care about him, but don't see a future. I'll leave out the part about Nathan, obviously. No need to make it harder than it has to be. Are you worried he'll freak out? Jenna asked. A little, Vanessa admitted. He's sensitive about rejection. But honestly, I think he'll be relieved. He's got to know on some level that I'm not happy. People always know. Except I hadn't known. Not until the hearing aids gave me access to the truth. What about the apartment? Claire asked. He's staying through the end of the lease, right? Yeah, I already told the landlord I'm not renewing, Vanessa said. Aaron doesn't know that yet. I figure I'll tell him mid-January, give him a few weeks to figure out his next move. By the time the lease ends, I'll already be moved into Nathan's place. She had it all planned out. Every step, every conversation, every manipulation designed to let her exit cleanly while leaving me to deal with the aftermath. I listened to that recording 3 times, sitting in my car in the gym parking lot, making sure I hadn't misheard anything. Then I went inside, ran on the treadmill until my legs gave out, and went home to the woman who was counting down the days until she could discard me. How was the gym? She asked when I walked in, her friends long gone. Great, I said. Really pushed myself tonight. That's good, she said absently, scrolling through her phone. Probably texting Nathan. I'm proud of you for staying so active. Thanks, babe, I said, and went to take a shower. Under the hot water, I finally let myself feel the full weight of what I'd learned. She was leaving in 5 weeks. She had another man lined up. She thought I was too sensitive to handle the truth. She believed I'd be relieved when she left. Every assumption she'd made about me was about to be proven catastrophically wrong. On January 5th, I executed phase 1 of my plan. I invited Vanessa to dinner at Kennard, one of the nicest restaurants in Portland, the kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance. She was surprised but pleased. What's the occasion? She asked. No occasion, I said. I just want to celebrate us. Celebrate making it through a hard year and looking forward to the future. She hesitated for just a moment, guilt maybe, or cognitive dissonance, but then smiled. That sounds lovely. The dinner was perfect. I was charming, attentive, everything a good boyfriend should be. I asked about her work, her friends, her plans for the new year. She relaxed into it, probably reassuring herself that leaving me was the right choice because look how nice this was, and she still felt nothing. Over dessert, I made my move. I've been thinking, I said carefully, about us, about the future. I know this past year has been hard with the hearing loss and everything. I want you to know how much I appreciate you sticking with me through it. Of course, Vanessa said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I love you. The lie sat between us like a third presence at the table. I was thinking, I continued, maybe we should start looking at buying a place together. I know the lease is up soon, and instead of just renewing, what if we took the next step, made a real investment in our future? I watched her face carefully. This wasn't part of her plan. This was the opposite of her plan. That's a big step, she said slowly. Maybe we should wait until the lease is up and then reassess. Why wait? I pressed gently. We've been together over a year. We're already living together. Why not make it official? I just think we should take our time, she said, pulling her hand back. Make sure we're making the right decision. Are you having doubts? I asked, injecting just the right amount of hurt into my voice. About us? No, she said quickly. Too quickly. I just think there's no rush, that's all. Okay, I said, backing off. We can table it for now. I just wanted you to know I'm thinking long-term with you. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I appreciate that. The next day, I sent flowers to her office with a card that read, "To the woman I want to build a future with. Thank you for yesterday. Love, Aaron." I knew her coworkers would see them. I knew they'd think I was romantic and committed. I knew it would make her exit explanation that much more complicated. Because how do you leave someone who's publicly, demonstrably trying? Over the next 2 weeks, I ramped up the performance. I planned dates, cooked elaborate meals, talked about summer vacation plans. Every action was designed to create a narrative that contradicted the one she'd been building. Meanwhile, I continued documenting everything. The recordings piled up. Vanessa on the phone with Nathan, discussing where they'd go for their first official date once she was free. Vanessa telling her mother that she was finally taking care of herself by ending a relationship that wasn't serving her growth. Vanessa confiding in Claire that she felt guilty about the timing but knew it was the right thing. Each recording was dated, backed up, organized. On January 15th, Vanessa finally made her move. "We need to talk," she said one evening, sitting me down on the couch with the kind of serious expression that's meant to prepare someone for bad news. "What's wrong?" I asked, though I knew exactly what was coming. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she started. "About us, about where we're going, and I think we need to take a step back." "A step back?" I echoed. "What does that mean?" "I think we should separate," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "The lease is up in 2 weeks, and I think that's a natural stopping point for us. I care about you, Aaron, I really do, but I don't think we're right for each other long term." I let the silence stretch, watching her squirm. "Is this about the hearing loss?" I asked finally, hitting exactly the note of wounded confusion she'd expect. "No," she said quickly. "This has nothing to do with that. You're managing it really well. The hearing aids are great. This is about us, about compatibility." "What changed?" I pressed. 2 weeks ago, we were having dinner and talking about the future." "I know, and I'm sorry about that. I should have been honest sooner, but I've been feeling this way for a while." "How long is a while?" "A few months," she admitted. "A few months. More like 6, based on the recordings. But who was counting?" "Is there someone else?" I asked, even though I knew the answer. "No," she lied. "This is just about me needing space to figure out what I want." "I see," I said quietly. "So what happens now?" "I've already told the landlord I'm not renewing," she said. "I can move out in the next week or so. You can stay through the end of the lease if you want, or we can both leave early and split the penalty." "You already told the landlord?" I let hurt creep into my voice. "When were you planning to tell me?" "I'm telling you now," she said defensively. I needed to secure my options before having this conversation. Her options. Nathan's apartment. The life she'd been building while pretending ours was real. "Okay," I said finally. "If this is what you want, I won't fight you on it." She looked relieved. "Thank you for understanding. I know this is hard." "Can I ask one thing?" I interrupted. She nodded. "Can we keep this between us for a few days? I need time to process, and I don't want to deal with everyone's questions and opinions right away." "Of course," she said, looking grateful. "Whatever you need." What she didn't know was that I'd just bought myself time to control the narrative. Over the next 3 days, I reached out to key people in both our lives, not to gossip or complain, but to establish my version of events before hers could take root. I called my brother Jeremy and told him Vanessa had ended things suddenly, with no warning, after I'd been planning a future with her. "That's brutal," he said. "Are you okay?" "I will be," I said, "but I want to make sure I'm protected. The apartment, shared expenses, all of it." "Smart," he said. "Document everything." I was way ahead of him. I reached out to mutual friends, carefully, selectively, people who knew both of us, but weren't firmly in either camp. I didn't trash Vanessa. I just expressed confusion and hurt. "I thought we were solid," I told them. "I was planning to propose this summer. I guess I missed the signs." The sympathy was immediate. Several people reached out to Vanessa to ask what happened. She stuck to her script. Incompatibility, needing space, growing apart. But the script sounded hollow when played against my narrative of blindsided devotion. Then I activated phase 2. On January 18th, I created a private YouTube video, 11 minutes long. It opened with me, sitting in the new apartment I'd already secured, looking tired but composed. "My name is Aaron Hartley," I started. 3 months ago, I got hearing aids for progressive hearing loss. They changed my life. They also revealed that the woman I loved had been mocking my disability behind my back for months while planning to leave me for someone else. Then I played the recordings. Not all of them. I wasn't cruel enough to post 90 minutes of content. But carefully selected clips, each one more damning than the last. Vanessa calling me boring. Vanessa discussing exit strategies. Vanessa laughing about my emotional vulnerability. Vanessa confirming her relationship with Nathan. Vanessa lying to my face when I asked if there was someone else. Between each clip, I provided context. Calm, factual, devastating context. This conversation happened 2 days after I told her I wanted to buy a house together, I explained. This one happened the same day she agreed to come to my parents' house for Christmas. This one happened while I was at the gym, believing she was home alone having a quiet night. I didn't editorialize beyond the facts. I didn't call her names or make grand pronouncements. I simply presented the evidence and let it speak for itself. At the end of the video, I addressed the camera directly. I'm sharing this not for revenge, but for accountability. Vanessa Winters spent months lying to me, using me for financial and emotional stability while building a relationship with someone else. She turned my disability into entertainment for her friends. She made me doubt my own perception of reality. And she planned to walk away clean, with me believing I was the problem. The hearing aids she encouraged me to get, the ones that were supposed to fix our relationship, ended up revealing the truth. I don't regret getting them. I regret trusting someone who saw my vulnerability as a weakness to exploit rather than a challenge to support. If you're watching this, Vanessa, I want you to know. I heard everything. Every word, every laugh, every plan, and now everyone else will too. I set the video to private and sent the link to exactly 5 people. Vanessa's boss, Patricia Reeves, Jenna Kowalski, Claire Donovan, Vanessa's mother, and Nathan, the personal trainer. I also sent it to Diane Fletcher, my lawyer, with a note. Not using it publicly unless necessary, but I want them to know it exists. The responses came within hours. Patricia Reeves called me directly. Mr. Hartley, I just watched your video. I need to verify. Are those recordings authentic? Completely, I said. Every word is real, recorded via my hearing aids over the past 2 months. I don't even know what to say. Vanessa presented herself very differently here. I'm aware, I said calmly. She's very good at managing her image. What do you want from me? Patricia asked. Nothing, I said honestly. I sent it to you because you told her at the holiday party that she was lucky to have me. I wanted you to know what kind of person you've been praising. There was a long pause. Thank you for sending this. I'll need to think about how to proceed. Jenna and Claire didn't call. They blocked me on all social media within the hour. Vanessa's mother called, crying, apologizing, saying she had no idea her daughter had been behaving this way. She told me you were incompatible, she said. She never mentioned any of this. I know, I said. She's very good at controlling narratives. Nathan sent a one-line text. We're done. Don't contact me again. Apparently, hearing the woman he'd been seeing discuss their relationship in such calculating terms had killed whatever attraction existed. And Vanessa called me 33 times in the span of 2 hours. I didn't answer. Finally, she showed up at the apartment we'd shared, the one she'd already moved out of, banging on the door at 9 p.m. Aaron, open up. We need to talk. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want, Vanessa? What the hell did you send to people? She demanded. What are you talking about? I asked calmly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Patricia called me into her office today and asked me about concerning recordings. Nathan broke up with me via text. My mother won't stop crying. What did you do? I shared the truth, I said. The same truth you were planning to hide when you left me next week. Her face cycled through emotions. Rage, panic, calculation. You recorded me without my permission. That's illegal. Actually, it's not, I said. Oregon is a one-party consent state, and I told you the hearing aids had recording capability. You knew they could record. You just didn't think I'd actually use them. This is revenge. She spat. This is you being vindictive because I had the courage to leave. No, I said quietly. This is consequences. You spent months making me feel defective, turning my disability into a punchline, planning your exit while using me for stability. You lied to my face, to my family, to everyone, and you expected to walk away clean. I just made sure that didn't happen. You're ruining my life. I'm revealing who you really are, I corrected. There's a difference. If your life is ruined by people knowing the truth about you, that's not my fault. That's yours. She stared at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, I saw her without the mask. No charm, no performance, just raw ugliness. You're going to regret this, she said. Maybe, I agreed, but I doubt it. She left, and I never saw her again. Not in person, anyway. The video never went public. It didn't need to. The 5 people I'd sent it to had spread the information through their own networks. Vanessa's reputation in Portland's marketing community tanked. Patricia Reeves didn't fire her, couldn't legally for personal conduct, but she never promoted her either. Vanessa left the company 6 months later. Jenna and Claire distanced themselves. Mutual friends chose sides, and most chose mine. Vanessa's mother reached out to me several times to apologize, which I accepted gracefully but didn't pursue. Nathan posted something vague on Instagram about dodging bullets that got more likes than any of his shirtless selfies. As for me, I stayed in Portland, in the new apartment I'd secured before the breakup. I got a promotion at work. Turns out that being able to hear clearly in meetings actually does improve your career prospects. I started dating again, cautiously at first, then more confidently. I learned to trust the hearing aids, to trust what I heard, to trust my own perception of reality. 11 months after the breakup, I was contacted by a writer named Rebecca Yang, who worked for a national magazine. She'd heard about my story through a friend of a friend and wanted to write an article about disability, betrayal, and modern relationships. "I think your story speaks to something a lot of people experience," she said during our first phone call. "That moment when a disability or health issue reveals who people really are, how they either step up or step away." I thought about it for a week, then agreed. The article ran in March of the following year. "The Sound of Betrayal: How Hearing Aids Revealed My Girlfriend's Secret Life." It went viral. Not YouTube viral, but viral enough that I got interview requests from podcasts, morning shows, and even a TED Talk organizer. I turned most of them down, but I did accept a few. Not for revenge. Vanessa had moved to Seattle by then, started over somewhere she wasn't known, but for the people who reached out to tell me they'd experienced something similar. The partners who found out about betrayals through recovered text messages. The spouses who discovered affairs through banking records. The friends who learned the truth through social media posts that weren't meant for them. Technology had given all of us the same terrible gift, clarity we didn't ask for but couldn't ignore. I met someone new eventually. Her name is Olivia. She's a speech pathologist, and the first thing she said when I told her about the hearing aids was, "That must have been a difficult adjustment." Not pity, not awkwardness, just acknowledgement. We've been together for 8 months now. She knows the whole story. I told her on our third date because I didn't want any secrets between us. She listened, nodded, and then said, "I'm glad you trusted yourself enough to leave. A lot of people wouldn't have." I almost didn't, I admitted. The easier thing would have been to just accept her version of events and blame myself. "But you didn't," Olivia said. "You chose yourself instead. That takes strength." Maybe it did. Or maybe I just got lucky with the hearing aids, stumbling into truth by accident rather than design. Either way, I've learned to trust what I hear now. The obvious conversations and the whispered ones. The words people say to my face and the ones they save for when they think I'm not listening. Dr. Nguyen was right. The hearing aids gave me access to conversations I didn't know were happening. She just didn't mention that sometimes those conversations change everything. It's been 2 years since I walked out of her office with the devices in my ears, since the world crashed in with sound and revelation. 2 years since I heard Vanessa laugh about my insecurities and realized that the woman I loved had never existed outside my imagination. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty about the recordings, about the calculated way I documented her betrayal and shared it with the people in her life. Diane Fletcher, my lawyer, certainly thought I crossed an ethical line. "You could have just left," she'd said. "You didn't need to burn down her reputation on your way out." But I think she was wrong. Because leaving quietly would have meant letting Vanessa control the narrative, would have meant letting her tell everyone I was too sensitive, too damaged, too limited to make the relationship work. It would have meant internalizing her version of me instead of trusting my own worth. The recordings weren't about revenge. They were about refusing to be gaslit, about saying, "No, I'm not crazy. Here's proof." I still wear the hearing aids. Upgraded models now, smaller and more sophisticated than the ones Dr. Nguyen fitted 2 years ago. They let me hear the world in full complexity, the good conversations and the harmful ones, the truth and the lies, the people who mean what they say and the ones who don't. And sometimes, late at night when Olivia is asleep beside me and the apartment is quiet except for the ambient sounds of the city, I think about Vanessa. Not with longing, that died the moment I heard her call me a used car, but with something like gratitude, because she taught me that the most important thing you can hear isn't what people say to your face. It's what they say when they think you're not listening. And once you learn that lesson, you never forget it. The hearing aids gave me back sound. Vanessa's betrayal gave me back myself. If you made it this far, I hope you never have to learn this lesson the way I did. But if you do, I hope you trust what you hear, even when it breaks your heart. Especially then. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.